Right, what we're going to do now is I'm going to bring in another tree, which we can have a look at the roots. There we go. There. Now, this is a maple. It's an outdoor tree. He's used to being out in the cold and adapted quite well for the cold actually, but I'm not. So I'm going to put my jacket on, Alan, because I'm getting a little bit chilly now.
Mind if I join you?
No, of course not. Yeah, wrap up well. The weather's changing, isn't it?
Well, if you would choose a barn to make this film in.
This is a lovely studio. Oh, right, that's a bit better. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this one out of the pot. You can see he's been outside all winter. He's a bit overgrown. So what we're going to do is we've got to give him a good weeding and a good spring clean. I suppose he's been a little bit neglected through the winter time. It's been pretty cold out there this winter. So first thing I'm going to do is have a look underneath, because I think this one will be wired in. No, he should lift straight out. Absolutely lovely trees. So now what we're going to do is, same as before, we're going to start teasing away around the outside. We've got a lot of moss growing around here. Now some people like moss growing over the trees, some people don't. That's just a personal taste. But what we have got, we've got moss growing over the roots here. So we're going to strip all that off, clean it all up, and of course the moss will grow again if you want it to, or you can just keep weeding it. So there's my trusty chopstick. This is going to be quite a long job here, and in fact you can see it. A lot of the root round here is actually grass roots. And you can see we've actually got a nice strong root ball here. I've been working on this tree for probably about 15 years now. So anyway, let's get some roots out here. Okay, let's start around here. Same thing again, just very, very carefully teasing out. Little bits of grass coming out now. And this is probably going to take a good couple of hours, I think, to work around. We're not going to take all the roots out. We're not going to remove all the soil. What we're going to do is we're going to trim it back to about that much all the way around the outside. We're going to break up the underside here. You can see there's like a mat here. It's fairly firm. We're going to loosen that up, just pull the roots out a little bit, not too much. And then we can give it a little trim back and a good clean up all the way around here. Very gently. And see a few roots coming out now. This one was repotted about probably only a couple of years ago, and it's not actually, apart from needing a good weed, it's not actually desperate to be repotted. It could probably go for another couple of years without being repotted now. This tree is about 45 years old now, so it's getting quite old and the growth is starting to slow down a bit. So probably would only need to be repotted probably every 4 years, depending on how it grows throughout the summertime. But the reason why I'm repotting it is because I want to change the pot. I'm going to put him into a different shaped pot, which I think will make it look a lot nicer. And you can see it's quite a slow process. The main thing is really just to take your time. Just trying to ease the soil out. I have seen some people, when I was teaching once, got several times, and when people start off in bonsai, they tend to want to get going on it and they want to tear into it. They want to start bending them into funny shapes and lopping off branches left, right and centre. So one of the biggest things I teach people is to slow right down. And I've seen people coming in with the roots and they've got the chopstick and they've got it like a dagger and they're tearing at it like this, and I've got to take the chopstick off them and I say, look, just slow down. But it's one of those things, I think we're so used to everything we do, we've got to rush and rush and rush, but no, just take your time, nice and gentle. So we're going to tease out around there, and we're going to start cleaning up around here as well. Let's just see if I can clean off a little bit of this moss there, and you can see a bit more roots starting to come out. No, moss doesn't do any harm to the tree. So, as I said earlier, some people might like to keep the moss on. I mean, you could just clean the moss off the actual tree itself so that you can see the shape of the roots. Some people like to keep it just soil. Personal taste, really. You can see we've got a root coming out there that's been covered up for a while. Now, these roots I've been working on for quite a long time now to get them to come out like this. So you can see they just sort of come out of the soil, and these roots here are important. This whole curve here flows, so it comes out of the ground and flows all the way up. Right, there's quite a lot more work to do on this, so what I might do now, do you want me to just tease out a little bit underneath so that we can see that coming on?
Be good to see what you're going to do there.
Yeah, okay then. Let's see if I can get around there so we can all see what we're doing. Sometimes it takes a while to sort of break into it.
Is this a good example? Is it a healthy looking root?
No, this one's actually probably nearly dead actually. No, it is very, very healthy. Good roots. These white ones here are very, very healthy grass roots. So they don't belong to the tree at all. But probably if I'd left it for another couple of years in here, the tree roots would start to grow around here. But like I said earlier, what you don't want is thick, heavy roots growing throughout. We want lots of fibrous roots on the tree. So by constantly repotting every year or every 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, depending on the age of the tree, we are stopping those thick, heavy roots from growing, because the little roots at the moment, they might be small, but what they'll do is they keep growing round and round and round. And as they go round and round, they get thicker and thicker and take up more space in the pot. So by teasing them out, and then we'll prune them back, and then that'll stimulate new feeder roots, the very small roots, to keep growing in the fresh soil, and that's what keeps the tree nice and healthy. So we'll just take off a little bit more around here, and then what I'll do is I'll pass this on to my lovely assistant again. So we've got a bit of, if you can see that, a little bit of root coming out there, where you can see it started to go around, quite strong.
What about the watering process? How do you know when it needs watering? Because obviously the roots are looking healthy here.
Watering is actually the most important part of growing a bonsai. Absolutely essential. You must make sure that the tree is not soaking wet all the time. If the roots are wet all the time, what they'll start to do is to rot. Once the roots have rotted, then the tree is going to dehydrate, can't soak up any water, and then the tree will die. If it's allowed to dry out, so if all of this soil here became bone dry, then again the roots would just shrivel up and the tree would die. So it's essential. Really what you've got to do is treat it a bit like a pet. So you've got to check it every day, preferably, especially in the hot weather, morning and evening. And all it really requires is, especially if you don't know the tree, if you haven't had it for very long, you just got to touch the soil, stick your finger in there, and it, like this, is very, very wet. That doesn't need watering. All right, there's plenty of water in that soil. So we can leave that now. Check it again later. It's still wet, we leave it, we don't water it. And only when it gets to a point where it's just damp do we water. And then we give it a good soaking. And it's a bit like having, if you had a cloth, soaked it in water, then you wrung it out really well, and you've got that firm but damp feeling. Not wet but not dry. When the soil is like that all over, then you give it a good watering. Make sure the water drains down through the soil and there are holes in the bottom of the pot and the water will drain out through there.